Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15. Hell yes, your AK-47. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Oh, hell no!
Hell yes, we're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel, everyone. It is Sunday. That means it's the Zoo Sunday Night Live. This is your chance to talk to me and talk to the rest of the world. By the time this show is over, folks, thousands and thousands will have watched it. I'm checking on something here quietly. Oh, there we are. YouTube keeps going in behind me, and they keep turning off. They don't demonetize the whole video, folks. They turn it off. Now, I watched a lot of different channels this weekend to see, and I found complaints everywhere, folks, everywhere about what YouTube is doing to people with messages like us. You know that ginger dude, PJ, he's got the long ponytail. He does great satire, great parody, making fun of them. He was on his channel, and he spent probably the first minute begging for support and help because of what YouTube and social media is doing to destroy his network and take his money from him. I tell you, folks, they know that you are the power, and they want to make you deaf. They want to silence everyone around them so that you can't hear anything. That's what this is all about right now. This is the war we're fighting now, while they're getting ready for us to fight the next war. They don't want a free media. They don't want a free press. They don't want freedom of speech. They don't want free thought and free ideas. Hell, they don't want freedom. And folks, freedom is not free. This is your chance to talk to me and everyone else. Hit that super chat button right up there, and you can get your comments on the screen for thousands to see. And throughout the show, I'm going to remind everyone, share this internet address right up here. That is how you can make everything go forward, by sharing the internet address. It's all we can do, folks, is keep talking, screaming, and yelling. Thumbs up the video. I keep telling people that as well, to get you to thumbs up. It fucks with YouTube. They need, folks, a good ass kicking. These communists out there, they need their asses kicked big time. Very, very big time. I tell you. Anyways, yes, it's going to be a great show. We got a lot of questions already. And right out the gate, we've got Chin Music with a massive 56 super chat donation, which means I get to enjoy a Glenn Levitt 18 right here, right now. I tell you, folks, I right now am feeling the same thing everyone else is feeling. It's a lot of anger and frustration at the evil people out there. Semper Fi, Danny. Very good. He says, Zoo today. Hopefully we are still here next week. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Chin Music, I think we will be here next week. Now, I think what you're referring to is, I've got all kinds of messages on all kinds of computers here, so I may refer to someone accidentally. I'm back to you, Chin Music. I think you're referring to nuclear war. nuclear war, the potential for it. I think if we have that happen, if it starts, the brunt of it, the brunt of the nuclear war is going to be focused on Israel. There is so much hatred and animosity there. Okay, so Turkey has done what we predicted they would do. Turkey is now saying, well, they would rather be allied with Russia than Europe. They'd rather be part of BRICS than the European Union or NATO or anything to do with the West. And they have as an ally Pakistan, who says they will supply Turkey with nuclear weapons if they need them or want them. I don't know if I actually believe that, but that's what's being stated. Iran may or may not have nukes. We know Israel has nukes. Pakistan does have nukes. So does India. India is part of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. China has some nukes. Russia is the only one I'm strongly concerned about. And we're going to talk a lot about Russia tonight, unless you guys keep me going in other directions. It is, after all, Sunday Night Live, the Zoo, and your show. So nuclear weapons, I believe the brunt of them, at least for the first, shall we say, week, would be aimed, if they're aimed at all and let loose, at Israel. Now, here's the thing. How many Muslims will they kill trying to nuke Israel? How many hundreds of thousands or millions in Gaza would die as a result of the nuclear termination of Israel? Their food supply, their water supply, gone, radiated, done. I know it's already a desert, so you can't turn it into much more of a desert. But in order to do that, in order to nuke Israel, they're going to have to nuke, I think, their second or third most holy thing on the planet. It's not Mecca, but it's close. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Mount. We've got some big problems, folks, with these idiots, these left-wing idiots, these communist socialist idiots, these lovers of murder and death. That's who these people are. So yeah, if they nuke Israel, are they going to accidentally nuke Syria? And what about Jordan? Jordan is not the enemy of Israel, while Palestinians and other Muslims inside Jordan are. The king of Jordan, not so much. In Egypt, while full of Muslims pissed off at Israel, the government of Egypt is not. How many of these missiles would go off course? They're supposed to be high-tech, folks. They're supposed to be. How do we know that Israel doesn't have, right, a way to scramble the signal, to confuse the location, to send out false GPS coordinates? There's some trouble here potentially for the rest of the Arab-speaking world. Trying to take out Israel, they'll probably end up taking out a lot of themselves. Not to mention, Israel is going to respond and retaliate. I don't know how many nukes they have, whether it's 1 or 1 dozen or 100. I do not know. So that could or should influence the attitude. That should influence the attitude that's out there about going nuke. So I'll tell you what, Chin Music, it is a concern of mine. Now, I said 1 week, didn't I? What did I mean by 1 week? If the world is not satisfied with the horror of the first few nuclear detonations, if they are not just horrified at the destruction, the loss of life, counting in the millions and millions and millions, if the demand for blood is not sufficient at that point, and the demand is for the United States to pay next, who has the ability to touch the United States with nukes? There's only a few of them on the board. I do not think Israel has ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. I think they have missiles. I don't know if France has ICBMs, but they have nukes. I don't know if England has ICBMs, but they have nukes. Intercontinental ballistic missile is meant to fly over to hit America or from America to the other continents. Intercontinental. So Russia has them, China has them, and the United States of America has them. I don't know if India and Pakistan have them. Not sure. Not sure. So after a week, if the world is not satisfied with what they've done to each other and done to themselves, then I would start to have some concern. Now, my biggest fear in the United States of America is not our enemies. It is Joe Biden. Joe Biden creates a ton of fear because we don't know what that dumb son of a bitch is going to do. We could stay out of it and keep Americans from dying en masse from nuclear detonation, explosion. But if Joe launches one missile, just one, then the allies of whoever is hit, they can decide if they want to engage. Scary stuff. Very, very scary. Great topic, Mr. Mr. Chin Music. I appreciate it. Whew. And there it is. We're off to the races. Well, I took a scotch. The Chin Music's comment kind of sobered me up. So I'm going to move on to Darcy T, who has also done a $50 super chat donation through PayPal. Thank you, Darcy T. Here's to you and your continuing support of the show. I want to thank everybody who is American, who loves freedom, who loves truth, honor, justice, fact, morality, dignity, decency, and goodness. And everyone else, they can go to hell. And that's probably where they'll end up when this is all said and done. Here's to you, Darcy. Semper Fi. Like mother's milk. Now, what does Darcy T have to say? She tends to keep it simple. She says, good evening, John. What are the odds that the main shooter is conveniently found dead, like so many before him? Dead men tell no tales. And of course, out comes the pre-written legislation to restrict the Second Amendment. Well, the main shooter has been conveniently found dead. That's what's going on. They're saying the main shooter is found dead. And that dead man will tell no tales. My question is that dead man really dead? Is that really the main shooter? The main massacre master, right? This bad guy. You know, he went and committed his horrific acts of terror and murder. Escaped from one place to another, did some more terrorizing, escaped, eluded the police. They went looking for his boat, couldn't find him. They went looking for his car, couldn't find him. Somehow he has a trailer in the middle of nowhere, and they decided to go look for it. And now they have found him. How fascinating is that? Dead men tell no tales. they're going to keep the information close to the vest on this. If it truly is him and dead, well, then they can tell whatever story they want. Where's his manifesto? Remember how every mass murderer out there has a manifesto, because they're stinking communists and they want everyone to know their belief systems, right? They want to make a statement. They want to politicize their terror. They want everyone to know what they really thought. Well, the homosexual / trans killer that slaughtered Christians and Christian children in the heartland of our country had a manifesto that was so bad, the police, the FBI still have not released it. Still have not released it. How bad could it be? I mean, if there was something about how they were personally violated, I'm sure they could redact the horrific crimes, if there were any crimes that person committed or had committed against them. But at least tell us what they were thinking, right? No, we can't. It is that bad. This guy, this person, this Mr. Card, the massacre master, right, driving around in a Subaru, the preferred driving vehicle of left-wing white lunatics, who's wearing Crocs. Once again, Crocs, plastic shoes preferred by left-wing ding-dongs. Not that others don't wear them that are right-wing, but they're preferred by. Hearing voices and then obeying the voices they hear in their head. Being on mind control drugs. That's something that left-wing lunatics tend to like. Tends to be part of their deal. I'm not buying that this is a Republican or a right-wing radical. But I also wonder, where is this person? Conveniently found dead? We're still out there, and they want everyone to calm down. Maybe this person, folks, knows a little too much. Boy, we got some mysteries. Now, sadly, we'll never get to learn and get to the truth unless this person is still alive and does release whatever truths they're in possession of. For example, if I was to do anything interesting, I would write a dozen letters, and they would go out to a dozen different places so that I knew that my message would be the one that gets out and not the fake message that would be granted, right? Compliments of the FBI to try and frame me with something. Do these people think like that? I don't know. No idea. But I'll tell you, though, the odds that the main shooter is found conveniently dead, 100%, because that's what they're claiming. Now, I remember that Osama bin Laden died. Then he was alive again. They had to kill him again. And then yet again, I can't remember at this point in this time now how many times Osama bin Laden was killed before ultimately we were told he was killed. I can't remember if it was 3, 4, or 5. Ooman, do you remember? Okay, yeah. We were told he was killed a number of times. Finally, they had the Navy SEALs kill him, while they also took out, I think, SEAL Team 6 in the process. There's a lot of really sneaky shit that goes on in government, folks. A lot of it we'll never understand because we're not on the inside. We're doing great. We're up over 300 people live, so hit that thumbs up button. And once again, the only way to defeat these people is to make our voices heard. Number one, share that internet address right up there. Share that internet address right up there. Number two, right? Get your thoughts on the board. Super chat button right up there, or Venmo, CashApp, and PayPal are down below. By you guys participating in the show, a couple of things happen. One, you participate and you put money in the GTFB and SB. That's the Get the Fuck Back and Stay Back Fund. And the other part of that, folks, is it shows people out there across the world that it's not just me here talking and bringing these topics up. It's stuff you want to talk about. It's important to you, all of us in the audience. We have a Prepared Mind network, folks. We have the preparedmind.club. We have subscribestar.com, which is where the Prepared Mind is also located at for premium memberships. And the preparedmind.club is our distribution store. We don't sell anything. We just give you links to places that sell stuff. This is what we've got, and this is how we do it, right? To stay alive and stay on the air. Now, this is interesting. A 99-year-old Holocaust survivor, that makes her Jewish, right? Survived the Nazis of Germany in World War II. She's getting somewhere around 1,000 anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel messages daily ever since the Hamas attack started. So I want to bring this up. I want to ask the question: is terrorizing old women honorable? Is truly terrorizing them and murdering children honorable? Terrorizing, murdering men, women, children, old women. And it's all being supported by Democrats who do not want to condemn Hamas. I'm not saying we need to go in and fight Hamas for Israel as a nation, as a military. No, fuck that. Right? Those people are dug in like ticks. They're dug in like the Taliban in Afghanistan in their tunnels and their underground world that they have there in Gaza. It's truly a termite mound or an anthill full of disgusting, filthy, murderous ants. Terrible place. Right? Now, there was a time when they were all contained there, but who invited them to come out? European socialists and American socialists invited these people to come out of their holes, travel around the world, and populate everywhere else, and bring their mentality and bring their terror groups with them. Who needs to have their asses kicked? 99-year-old women? Little Jewish children? Or the Democrats who refuse to stand up and at least say what is wrong with the situation? That's right, folks. The Democrats need to have their asses kicked politically. I'm not inciting violence. I'm not. The Democrats are the problem. Period. We could put an end to a lot of bullshit if we didn't have that. But folks, it's not even close. It's not close to us having control over this country. It really isn't. I'm going to give you a little bit of around the world on this stuff. Unbelievable. In Hamburg, Germany, folks, the Muslims there are waving ISIS and Taliban flags. That's what they're waving. They're waving the flags of terrorism. They're holding an anti-Israel protest. Folks, the disease of terrorism is spreading now into every nation, and it's multiplying. If you thought at one point that, well, we have a lot of Muslims in our country, that's fine. Some of them are just not going to like America very much, and that's just the way it is. Well, how about there's a lot of Muslims in our country, and a lot of them may be benign, not violent, but the ones that are anti-American are becoming very violent. They're doing it in Germany. They're doing it in America. They're doing it in Russia. They're doing it all over the world. Now, folks, the flag. There's a game played in the military called Capture the Flag. When you capture the enemy's flag, that means you've defeated them. The flag is a symbol of war. It's a symbol of the side you're on, the country you're on, the solidarity. It's a symbol of the unit you're in. whether you're in a state of war or a state of peace. The fact that ISIS has a flag doesn't really designate that ISIS is a country. Same with the Taliban. But the flag still represents the idea, and that idea is represented on the field of battle or in the field of terror by people who want to do harm. To hold and wave a Taliban flag, to hold and wave an ISIS flag, to hold and wave a Hezbollah or a Hamas or any other flag that is symbolic of terrorism, I think makes you a member of that terror faction. It shows that you support them. And if you're willing to support them by waving the symbol of their hatred and destruction and murder, then you should be arrested. As much if I flew a KKK flag on the back of my truck, or if I flew any flag, right? Even the Confederate flag today will get you some nasty looks. And there are some strange looking flags out there. People don't know what the hell it is. They were going after people with Norwegian flags. They were going after people with all kinds of different flags because they're symbols, and symbols mean things. So yeah, if you flew the KKK or the Nazi flag, folks, people would lose their shit, would they not? Well, the Nazi Party, the National Workers' Socialist Party of Germany, hasn't been around since about 1945 in any significant degree. They don't hold marches and terrorize and kill old Jewish women. They're not attacking Jews in Israel. They're not attacking Jews around the world. That is what the ISIS, Taliban, Hezbollah, and Hamas types are doing, Al-Qaeda, etc. We've got a problem. It's getting out of hand. I need to ask you this. Are you prepared to deal with it? Simple question. Are you prepared? I tell you what, Mr. Uman earlier had something about these terrorists in Russia. And I was pretty sure that I had that article as well. But before I get to things I want to talk about, I want to find out what you want to talk about. Super chat donations right there. Support this channel. I want to talk about what you want to talk about. What is on your mind? Jolene, who is going to do a super chat donation question. And this is Chin Music stepping up. He says, it's a safe bet that the idiot class in DC and are intent on getting us in a war to distract from all their domestic failings. They miscalculate our readiness and the enemy's willingness. Most Western Judeo-Christians have an emergency brake on their behavior. There are things that they believe will earn eternal punishment. The jihadis, however, think they earn rewards for savagery and barbaric acts because there are no innocent infidels. Western people are currently way too soft, and our military is too weakened currently to fight this type of conflict. I'm asking my fellow Viking for his thoughts on what I brought up. Well, let's start with number one. Let's put up Chin Music's number one. I refer to my Viking heritage because I look the part. You know, Scandinavian, German, Celtic, right? I know who they were and what they did. They were not a bunch of loving people. They were hardcore in their belief systems, and they were men of action, the Vikings of old, from 1,000 years ago. So that's what he's referring to there. He says it's a safe bet that the idiot class in DC are intent on getting us into war to distract from their domestic failings. My response to that is the domestic failings he refers to, or that I'm aware of, are monetary policy, economic policy, financial policy, military policy, educational policy, border policy. The policy, folks, back here at home domestic failings. That's all right here within our borders. The fact that their policies are failing the country and bringing it down. The cities that are screaming the loudest, cities like, well, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, DC itself, New York City especially, and all the others, they're losing it. Philadelphia. I've spoken with people just over the last couple of weeks who have come down here down south. And they tell me some awful tales about what's going on in and around the big cities. There are zones of zombies. That is, people who may or may not have some kind of a home, but are so whacked out of their minds on drugs that they wander the streets in a zombie-like stupor. These same cities, folks, are full of anti-American radical socialists that go from immigrants to domestic poor to middle class and even to the rich. That's right. The rich Democrats. We're talking 10 million or more in net worth. They hate this country as much as the others. They think that, well, they're special though. Now, these people, they own the cities. Now, if Russia or China or some other nation capable of launching an intercontinental ballistic missile and taking out our cities, guess who they're going to be taking out? Largely the Democrats and their own people from other parts of the world that they just love, right? They're Palestinian and pro-Palestinian persons of Muslim character. They live in the cities. They don't live out in the country, folks. Now, domestic failings, yeah, they want to hide that. They're in big trouble. And MAGA Mike Johnson, Make America Great Again, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. What about that guy? He's pushing for impeachment. Joe Biden can't have that. So he launched some missiles into Syria, right? And we've got everything going on in Israel. We're being kept in the dark on Israel, by the way. We're being kept in the dark there. Now, to continue with Chin Music's comments, he says, they miscalculate our readiness and the enemy's willingness. That's a very good statement, I think very precise. They, meaning Washington, D.C., miscalculate our readiness, that is the American people, our readiness to defend ourselves and our country, our willingness. And I'll get to the reason why we have done nothing in just a few moments because of Chin Music's comments. The enemies, of course, are very, very willing. But what we have in America is a partially active justice system that stands as an effective deterrent to outright terrorism. I think the fear of us, the people, is what keeps them in line. The same reason Japan was afraid of America and Russia was afraid of America for the last 50 to 70 years is because they know we all have guns. In fact, gun sales are up 200% in Maine since the master massacre man has done his evil deed. So every time there's a mass shooting, gun sales go up. People realize I better protect myself. Now, to continue with Mr. Chin Music's comment here, I'm going to go to the next page. Most Judeo-Christians have an emergency brake on their behavior, meaning their morality. We have been taught to be good people, to turn the other cheek, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, be a nice Christian person. And we've adopted that for the most part. We've adopted this quiet morality so that we can be better than the enemy. When we see the enemy being bad, we're like, we're not bad like that. We'll defeat them with kindness and the occasional bullets. Now, Chin Music continues, says there are things that they believe will earn eternal punishment, meaning, yeah, we believe that if we do bad things, we're going to go to hell, right? As Christians, we're going to go to hell for what? For eliminating an enemy who is sworn to kill all of us, from the women to the children and even the unborn. See, war is a very ugly thing, folks. And I spent a great deal of time learning and considering what it means to have to fight an enemy for the state and what's the difference between murder and war. There's a big difference between murder and war. There's a big difference between murder and self-defense. There's a big difference between murder and eliminating an enemy entirely, eliminating a threat entirely. You see, when you get cancer, you don't just kill half of it to teach the other half a lesson. The other half of the cancer that's left in your body, it doesn't know or care that half of it has been defeated. It's going to come back and multiply and populate and try and destroy you again anyways. You have to eliminate cancer. The thing that is deadly, that will kill you and keep killing you and keep trying to kill you, it must be eliminated. Doing what must be done to protect innocent people will not get you a train ticket to hell. Now, on the other hand, the jihadis think that they earn rewards and higher places in heaven and more virgins and more goats for their acts of savagery and barbaric just murders. Now, the reason they get away with this in their heads is they think there are no innocent infidels. An infidel is someone who deserves death for not believing properly. And the infidel can be given an opportunity to convert, or they can just be killed outright, depending on the generosity of the murderous, barbaric jihadi. To them, makes no difference. The more they kill, the better off they think they are. So they are incentivized to kill, whereas the average Christian is disincentivized to kill. Chin Music goes on, says, Western people are currently way too soft and our military is too weakened to currently fight this type of conflict. So first, I want to start with the military. The military has had its hands tied since World War II. You want to go back through the Gulf Wars, Iraq, Afghanistan. There were rules of engagement that had to be followed, right? Funny how those rules don't apply when, say, the SEALs go in or recon goes in or special forces go in. They just go in and slaughter everybody. But they have rules of engagement for the average warrior out there. Now, those go back to Vietnam, Korea, all the way back to World War II, when they started this nonsense. War is hell. It's hell. Right now, the city that the Russians and the Ukrainians are fighting over, it's probably 95% abandoned by civilians. It is a war zone, right? When war comes, people get the fuck out of the way, because what is supposed to happen in a war is everything gets destroyed and people die. This idea that we can send in smart bombs and munitions and we'll take out just the bad guys and win hearts and minds, all that bullshit. That's not how it's supposed to work, because you leave the cancer in place. Anyways, so the military is weakened currently. Right now, the U.S. Army is trying to recruit senior citizens. That's not a fucking joke, but that's a joke. Can senior citizens be useful in a war effort? Damn right they can. But who's going to carry the rifle after they pull up their boots and their laces and tie them up tight, blouse their pants, their BDUs, their war clothing? Who's going to fight that fight? The guy taking estrogen? I want to be a girl. The guy that's had his dick cut off? The woman who wants to be a warrior and is taking testosterone, but still doesn't have the muscular build, the frame, the genetics? No, it's just not going to happen, folks. Those women are few and far between that could pull that off. In other words, we have a weakened military. That is a fact. A lot of people don't like facts, folks. For me, I don't care whether anyone likes the facts or not. When it comes down to war, the facts are the facts. You want strong, pissed off, testosterone-driven young men in the fight, kicking the shit out of the enemy. Now, in the West, the United States, England, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, etc., yada, 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 the West, we are weakened. We're too soft. We don't like killing. And this kind of goes along with the whole Judeo-Christian belief system of killing just isn't nice. And so that's given our enemy the opportunity to put its roots down, to create strongholds in the West. And what are they doing with those strongholds? Well, they are a cancer. They're cancer centers where they're killing culture, tradition, history, law, order, and Western civilization. They've got no problem with it. So if the fighting breaks out, right now, Chin Music says, I'm asking my fellow Viking for his thoughts on. Jolene will flip to the last page again. Asking my fellow Viking for his thoughts on what's going on here, what needs to be done. We have to sit back. Truly, we get to sit back. And we get to see what the heck. Okay. My thoughts are that when it comes to your town, are you going to leave the cancer in place? Or are you going to remove it? When it comes down your street, are you just going to scare it off? Or are you going to take it out all the way? What I brought up. Thank you again, Jolene, very much. Thank you, Mr. Uman. I want everyone in the comments, do not call for violence. That's not what this channel is about. Do not call for racism. Do not call for harming people and picking on people. This is an academic and satirical look at what the fuck is going on. But understand, when the balloon goes up or when the signal is given, you will know what time it is. In my opinion, there are a lot of veterans out here who know what to do. And as an American citizen, having once taken the oath as a military member, but having been discharged, you are no longer bound by the rules that govern the military, the UCMJ, but you are bound by your oaths to protect the Constitution and the nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Rules of engagement be damned. We will be bound only by the rules and laws of what is known as common law. Common law, common sense. What is the right thing to do at this time? Sadly, there are going to be a lot of innocent people killed, folks, and they always are. Sadly. My thought is that if you think that you could be one of those people mistaken for the enemy, then you keep your head damn down low. We're going to have some trouble, folks. We're going to have a lot of it. Not tomorrow, not this week, but certainly sometime in the near future. Great super chat questions and great super chat donation with that 5556. All righty, that's how you get your questions on the board, and I will address them. And yes, any super chat donation of $50 or more buys me a delicious scotch. I tell you what, we got some more super chats. So Jolene, please share with everyone. Nancy Kegg tosses out a $10 super chat donation. Thank you, Nancy Kegg, very much. You look like an American, according to your picture there. I recommend you be very careful out there. I have no idea where you're at in the country. Don't tell anyone. We don't need to know. But definitely keep supporting America, the Constitution, our laws, etc. I love that you're there all the time, Nancy, supporting everyone. Thank you very much for supporting the Prepared Mind Network, me, Jolene, Uman, etc. Okay, who else have we got out there? We got Chin Music. He's back again with a $4.99 super chat donation. He says, Republicans may not be the answer to your problems, but Democrats are most certainly the cause. Oof, that hurts because it's true, right? That was on target. Republicans are not the answer to our problems. Why not? Because of the rhinos. That's right, the rhinos. Never trust a rhino. Rhino meaning Republican in name only. There's a lot of people that are in Congress not to serve the people in whose district they reside, but rather to serve themselves. And that's who they are. You know it when you see it. You know them when you see them. They're not there to protect America. They're there as part of the hustle. Just like the Bidens are there to line their pockets, thinking somehow they're going to escape all of the chaos that they cause. It is an incredible, terrible situation. Incredible, terrible situation. And it has been caused by many Republicans and certainly the Democrats. Now, the thing is the Republicans don't say they want to destroy America. The rhino Republicans pretend like they're for America. Now, the Democrats, on the other hand, they'll come right out and tell you. Yes, they will, just like this jackass.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15. Hell yes.
Hell yes, they will. That's destroying the Constitution. Whoo! I tell you, man, I am fired up. I'm pissed off. Never a worry, Jolene. And I would like to solve all the problems myself, but I can't, neither can you. So we've got to sit back and wait. While we wait, we get prepared. While we wait, we can take action. Prep to action. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. And then write, text, phone call your congressman, not only in DC, but in the state in which you live, and tell them you took an oath. Is your word worth a shit? If you don't start defending the Constitution and restoring the Republic, then you're a fucking liar. You can't say that you took that oath and you meant it, and then turn around and do the things that you're doing to destroy this country. There it is right there. All right, we're over 400 people live right now. I want to tell everyone, thumbs up. Make sure you thumbs up this video. Share that internet address there. It's the only way to get to more people. Some of the most popular channels, alt-right, on YouTube, on the internet, are being silenced and hidden. We're all calling for this now. Even the most popular channels are saying, look, you got to share the message. You got to share the internet address. We're being shadow banned, all of us. Me, you, all of us. We have to share directly. It is guerrilla support through your super chat donations and through the preparedmind.club and subscribestar.com. And it is direct support through sharing the internet address of our videos. And if you are not a subscriber, you've got to hit the subscribe button now, because they will unsubscribe you. Familiarize yourself with the name of this channel and all channels. Also, the rsyndicate.com. It is a clearinghouse website that Uman, that's right, Uman of the Prepared Mind Network, he has created the R Syndicate so you can find other preppers, other patriots, other news and information disseminators, people who want to spread the word. It's incredible. Now, I want to get into this, what is going on in this country. Thousands, folks, not a couple dozen, thousands. Remember when Antifa and BLM started to go downhill in popularity, in support and activity? There was a couple of dozen here and there. Right now, there are thousands of pro-Hamas, which means pro-terror, which means anti-Israel, anti-Jew, anti-West, anti-America, pro-terrorism, pro-murder. Thousands of pro-Hamas supporters and others are calling for they're calling for Israel's destruction. They have shut down the Brooklyn Bridge. They are vandalizing businesses. They're putting stickers on businesses, cars, windows that are anti-Semitic, calling for murder. Do you see the problem? 2020, folks, was a bunch of college punks. College punks who are not hardened murderers, yet they were aggressively recruited and encouraged to commit acts of violence. Burning, looting, murdering, BLM, Antifa. These people that are out there now, not by the hundreds, but by the thousands, are hardened, anti-American, Western civilization hating, Jew hating, Israel hating people, and they're out by the thousands. Can you see the problem yet? Folks, we are not safe. Not anymore, not now. They talk a lot about waking the sleeping dog. Right? Don't poke the bear, don't wake him up. Well, guess what? Hamas has been infiltrating the country. Hezbollah has been infiltrating the country. Al-Qaeda has been infiltrating the country. All of these pro-Palestinian, pro-terror types have been infiltrating our country. And now they're here. And now they're more than willing to get out of hand. If you think the $4+ billion in damage that was caused in 2020 by those radical college students was bad, wait till these pro-Hamas bastards, these pro-Hezbollah, these terrorists get going in this country. Yes, indeed. All right. I tell you what, it is your turn. Jolene, who does the super chat? Opie Waddell is back with a $10 super chat donation. He says, my friend is hurt from an accident. Please ask if anyone could donate at GoFundMe. Search for Ariana Topali and Semper Fi. There it is. Opie Waddell is asking for people. Go take a look at GoFundMe.com. Search Ariana Topali. Read the story. Find out what is going on. Opie, I hope everything is well and that we get back to 100%. Sorry to hear that a friend of yours is hurt from an accident. I never like to hear news like that. I always want people to do the best they can and get over things. But, folks, we're going to have some trouble here. All right. Who is next? Who steps up? We've got NPNY 1970 with a $4.99 super chat donation. And last week, NPNY 1970 had some great commentary as well. Let's see what he wants to talk about today. He says, I can't believe you've been keeping me sane for a decade. Thank you for your well thought out opinions and support from New York. I tell you what, I love people from around this country. I always love guessing where they're from based on their accent, whether it's Boston or New York or Jersey, right? There's just all the great accents down south, out west, the upper Midwest, right? Minnesota, right? There's all these great accents, but I love Americans, folks. I love Canadians too. Believe it or not, I love Mexicans. I love people from around the world when they're good people. Rotten people, not so much. Anyways, I want to thank you for the great donation, supporting the channel, supporting the cause, supporting the message of freedom, liberty, and protecting America. And it's my privilege to have helped keep you sane. And it is I feel it's my duty, my mission in life to be right here talking to you guys about what the fuck is going on. Because as much as I may help others to wake up and realize they need to protect themselves and get prepared and then protect America, right? You guys are doing the same for me. By protecting your area, my area is protected. I tell you, unbelievable, folks, what's going on. Let's keep going. Let's take a look. I want to switch over to this. Get your super chat donations in one way or the other. But let's talk about this, folks. The New York University professor who made demands for the strictest, nastiest lockdown policy. He came out and gave a little speech and he asked for, get this, folks, quote, a little grace and forgiveness because of his propaganda and the propaganda of leftist Democrats everywhere. And he says this, quote, "We were doing our best." That's what he says. We were doing our best. How about a little grace and forgiveness? Well, a lot of people have followed up. This guy went on Real Time with Bill Mayer, right? And they went and tried apologizing without apologizing. Just said, hey, we were working with bad information and limited information. We did the best with what we had, right? So they had, Andrew Cuomo and Chief of Staff Melissa DeRosa and this professor that I just told you about, Scott Galloway, right? These people said that we need to give them some grace. We need to back away. Do you remember hearing anyone saying you deserve some grace when you didn't want to wear a mask? When you said, you know what, Jim Jones juice, I don't think that's a good idea, right? This Scott Galloway wanted very strict, prolonged lockdowns to combat the cerveza bug, which wasn't as bad as they said it was, right? He wanted to close businesses. He wanted to restrict your travel. He wanted social distancing forever. And then he was criticizing government officials who didn't do as much as he wanted, folks. This was just an awful, this person was an awful, awful human being. Right? They're awful people. Now, in response to their demand for, well, we're doing our best, give us some grace, right? People responded big time. He says, by silencing and ostracizing the people who turned out to be correct, no, you were not doing your best. You were doing what you were told without thought or question. I do not forgive any of them. Folks, does that sound like your thoughts? It sounds a lot like my thoughts, right? A January 6er named Philip Anderson. He stated, a little grace and forgiveness? Fuck you. You love going full tyrant and pushing people around. Cerveza bug was just your excuse to go all out. You don't get to talk about grace and forgiveness when you persecute and oppress half the country 24/7 when we have never done anything to you. Oh, that makes sense to me. Really does. Lara Logan stated, I'm with Philip. Fuck you. Scott and all the others just like you. People are dead, lives and families destroyed. How about accountability? Justice? These are the people who are in charge of our government right now, folks, with the same mentality as the nutty professor who wants a little grace and forgiveness. We have those same mentality Democrats in Washington, D.C. They're in charge of the military, the economy, our money, finance, spending money in this country, the infrastructure, the electric system. Well, how medicine is going to go in the future? These are the same people that will make the same radical political decisions and not care about you. And then later they'll come back and ask for some grace and forgiveness. I tell you what, no one's asked me for forgiveness. They're asking for forgiveness for themselves, not because they care what we think, folks. They don't want to be held accountable. It is that kind of world right now. We are 1 hour into the show. I've been having one heck of a good time with you guys. I hope you're enjoying everything as well. Send out a quick message there. Let us continue, folks. Let us continue. We started off talking about the main shooter. That was Darcy T's question about the main shooter. Biden did come out, and this is the second part of her question I didn't get to earlier because I wanted to wait till now. And thank you again, Darcy, for supporting the channel with your super chat donations. The Second Amendment, the legislation to come out and attack it. What was the people's response? It's the same as always. Go buy more guns, go buy more ammunition. Go buy more guns, go buy more ammunition. That's what the people do. The government, on the other hand, and their lawyers come out with new legislation demanding gun control. So Biden comes out and he puts his foot right in his mouth. This is because he did it, folks. His handlers wrote the words. His speechwriters wrote the words. He's not supposed to say anything, even though he does gaffe all the time, unless it's approved. They are so out of touch. They are so illogical. They're so retarded. They don't understand. Because the main shooter came out and killed people with an AR-15 / military looking weapon, Biden tried to use his line. Who the hell needs a high capacity assault weapon? You see the problem with that statement? Who the hell needs a high capacity assault weapon? Well, the answer is very simple. We just saw what happened in Israel. Well, let's see, when you got a bunch of people parachuting out of the sky with full auto machine guns, would you rather have a single shot musket that you can get one round off a minute if you're lucky? Or do you think a high capacity magazine would have come in handy at that moment to repel these paraglider, hang gliding, parachuting scumbags? That's right. A high capacity magazine in the hand of someone with an assault rifle, a semi-automatic sporting weapon, in other words, would have been pretty handy. And let's just say you took 2 shots at each one. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's 15 of them down. And if half the people there had them, you bet your ass every one of them would have crashed into the ground and not done a bit of damage. I'm sure they would have started shooting from up higher. That's okay, though, right? At least you would have had a fighting chance. People in Israel were being dragged out of their homes by murderous terrorists. Do you think those people would have benefited from having high-capacity magazines and assault-styled rifles? As they rode up and down streets in their pickup trucks, shooting their weapons into people's homes, shooting bystanders, don't you think it would have been a good idea for the people of Israel to have high-capacity magazines? Let's just say, what if Israel was America? What if America looked like Israel and we've got lunatic leftists, wacko communists, wacko terrorists driving up and down our streets shooting at us? What do we have? That's right. We have sporting rifles, assault style rifles with high capacity magazines and lots of ammunition. There's your answer, folks. Who the hell needs a high capacity assault weapon? All of us, Biden. All of us. This pendejo right here, this guy.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow...
Sorry, jackass, you don't get to have them. Everybody needs super duper high capacity mags now. And I want to thank Hamas for helping make Biden look like an idiot. Once again, common law, common sense, thinking, critical thinking, intelligent thought, right? It is crystal fucking clear at this point that we need in this country all the weapons we can get that only hardworking Americans can afford. And I'm sorry if you're a poor, hardworking American and you can't afford it, do what you can, right? But these terrorists, these non-Americans, should not be allowed to buy weapons in this country. They are not American citizens. Understand that. If they've got weapons, it's because they stole them from someone or they were illegally given weapons. They're terrorists, folks. They don't care about the law anyways. But that is what is going to keep them at a minimum. But that will not stop them from taking violent action. Violence. Absolute violence. I mean, get this, folks, in Brooklyn. That's New York City, Brooklyn, right? A little boy, 9 years old. Now, he is of Jewish ancestry. He is of Jewish religion, right? But he's an American. So I don't like the fact that the media calls him a Jewish boy, right? Maybe he is just Jewish and he just happens to be in America. But he was threatened by another kid. on a playground. Not only was he threatened by another kid on the playground, he was threatened with a knife. I will kill you, Jew. That's what the threat was reported to be. This is what's coming, folks, whether they have a gun or a knife. That's what these people do. I'm not calling for violence against Muslims. I'm not calling for violence against people of Arabian descent, African descent, Middle Eastern descent, Oriental descent, Eastern European. I'm not calling for violence against anyone. I'm calling for people to be ready for what's going on. Right? These people are going to continue. There we are right here. Once again, in New York, it's going to be one of the hotbeds of violence, New York City. Now, New Yorkers are already having a hard time with illegal immigrants coming from the southern border. They're having a hard time now with Middle Easterners and their supporters who are anti-Jew, anti-Israel. Now, people with money are leaving New York City and the greater New York area. And the people that are left there to defend the city, well, I wonder what they think of guns now. I wonder what they think of their fellow Americans who are veterans and patriots who love the Constitution, and they just kind of looked at the Constitution as, well, a piece of paper. Anyways, New Yorkers are starting to confront these idiots, these anti-Israeli types. One guy was tearing down flyers that were put up of missing Israelis. That is a form of political speech, right? The missing Israelis are over in Israel, Gaza. They're not here in New York City. But they're putting them up as a form of political protest, political speech. Anyways, there is a man tearing down these flyers. Man was tearing down flyers. You can guess what his religious proclivities are. You can guess what his attitude towards Israelis and Jews is. But Americans are getting pissed. And an angry New Yorker, got in this guy's face and said, quote, "You don't have a fucking right to touch that shit." This is what's happening. Americans are waking up, sadly, the hard way. As a prepper and as a patriot, as a sportsman, as a constitutionalist, you're already awake. And like John McClane from Die Hard, I like to say, welcome to the party, pal. Because here we are. Here we are. Good golly. It is nasty. It is Sunday Night Live. This is your show. Super chat donation button up there. We'll get your comments on the screen for everybody to take a peek at. Jolene, who do we want to toss up there next? Who gets to be next? It is Frank Rizzo with a $4.99 super chat donation. And Frank says, what percentage of senators profit from the wars they approve? The answer is 100% of them. 100% of all the senators profit from the wars they approve. They profit one way or the other. I'm going to start with the most simple way that they profit or that they gain. Profit is gain. They gain in support. People want to be patriotic. People want to go kick the ass of the bad guys. So every time a senator supports a war effort, they do so with the realization that Americans tend to support their government, and they want to profit by that. They want to be assured that they'll be reelected. That is how they profit. By holding that seat, they maintain their power and a source of income. What percentage of senators profit from the wars they approve? All of them. Now, beyond political approval, profiting that way, many of them, and I don't know what the exact percentage is, Frank, but many of them are invested in corporations, the military-industrial complex. As part of the government, either in the Senate or in the House of Representatives, these politicians learn what companies make what weapons and how, shall we say this, how many contracts they're about to get when they go into war. And what does that do right? How many of these companies, and I don't know because I've never looked into, because I've never wanted to invest in a military industrial complex company, pay out dividends. That is, you buy stocks from the company and you get paid on top of keeping the stock that should go up every time there's a new war. On top of keeping that stock, you get paid a percentage every year of their profits. It's called dividends or profit sharing. I believe that just about all of them do. Not just senators, but also congressmen. And not just congressmen and senators, but their staffers. They all get to hear who is making the money and where you go to make the most money. So they take our taxes, they distribute it to themselves, and then they take that money that they distributed to themselves, and then they invest in companies that are going to profit and pay them big money when they go to war. That, my friends, is called fascism. That is the system we're dealing with. Going to war after war after war and profiting off of it. It used to be illegal to be a war profiteer. Oh, how the times have changed, huh? Times have changed. Now, I want to get back to around the world. I've talked about Hamburg, Germany. I've talked about New York City. How about Russia? You know, Russia's over there and they're not putting up with a bunch of trash. They're going after the Nazis in Ukraine. Yeah, real live Nazis in Ukraine. Well, the problem with terrorists, pro-Palestinians, anti-Israelis, these Muslim jihadi types, unfortunately, they are all over the world. And now, there are some southern states in the Russian Federation. They tend to have names like Turkmenistan and the Uzbekistan, not Kazakhstan. That's its own independent country, but they are an ally of Russia. But in Dagestan, these tend to be Muslim areas that are under Russian Federation control. Well, at the airport in Dagestan, Russia, right, a Muslim lynch mob showed up at the airport. They stormed the tarmac. They stormed the airport. They wanted to search planes because of a rumor. There was a rumor that a flight came out of Israel and was landing at the airport in Dagestan. And so a lynch mob showed up. Folks, this problem with these Muslims, it is a worldwide problem. No doubts. No doubts. The obvious problem has an obvious solution. The solution, however obvious, will not be easy, and it is going to be messy. Now, the Uyghurs, who are a bunch of Muslims in China, well, China, being what China is and not afraid to murder its own citizens or imprison them and use them as slave labor to this day, they have made it their messy business to take these Uyghurs and lock them up or kill them or both. China is probably going to be the least affected as a large country with the radical jihadi, radical religious wackos. The other country that's going to be the least affected, folks, believe it or not, Japan. Japan does not allow them into the country because they recognized what these radical wackos are. They come in talking all nice, they build a population, then they become a problem. Japan recognized that if you want to come into their country, you have to learn their culture. You have to fit into the culture. You have to learn, understand, and accept Japanese law. And they knew that the Islamic jihadi type mentality would never do that. So they do not allow them into their country. And if they find you, they will deport your ass. Period. You are not allowed in Japan if you're a radical, murderous wacko or a radical, murderous wacko supporter, because to support them means you will house them, feed them, hide them, help arm them, etc. Right? And I will remind you, understand this, in 1776, 77, 78, so on and so forth, 3% or less of the country actively participated in the fight against the British. But the other 17% were supporters. They supported the revolution. About 80% did not. They were either neutral, meaning they didn't care one way or the other, or were cowards, or they supported the British directly. So the power and influence and assistance offered by supporters has to be understood for what it is. Supporters are people that won't say anything, they'll be quiet, but they'll offer all manner of assistance to help people fight. Now, in our case, we refer to the founding fathers and the Continental Army as patriots, because they established the most free nation the world has ever seen, which became a great, great nation that we are the descendants of, the United States of America. Other countries, folks, they're going to have problems with the lynch mobs, the radical religious types, and their supporters. Right? The problem with all these anti-American bastards here in America is half of the country is Democrat. So if they aren't actively fighting against our Constitution and us, they are supporters of those who do. Once again, there's an obvious problem and there's an obvious solution. But taking that action to make the solution real is a very ugly one. And as Chin Music pointed out earlier, if you're too soft, you're going to leave the cancer, the disease in place. Now, this came up. In Turkey, President Erdogan, who was part of NATO, Turkey part of NATO, but has always been allied with Russia. And his country is a massive drug running country. It is a massive, how do I say this, sex slave country, Turkey. It is not a great place, folks. It isn't. President Erdogan, folks, he has American jets and he has Russian jets. He is playing both sides and continues to play both sides mightily and very well. He's playing both sides. He looked at the West, right? And he said, take all of our scumbags. And he started shoving people into Greece until Greece almost broke out in war against Turkey. And then he sided with NATO, right, in support of, well, Ukraine. But then he allows Russian warships up and down the river that leads to the Black Sea. And then he threatens Israel, and then he threatens the West. This is what he said lately, folks. I am asking the West, do you want to create another Crusader war atmosphere? Right, that's what he asked. Do you want to create another Crusader war atmosphere? Basically, he's warning, and he said this during a massive protest in Turkey. What he's saying is that Israel commits war crimes against the Muslims. Now, whether or not they do, I would think that this is a battle or an awful thing that is happening with Israel and Gaza and Israel, and it goes back and forth. The terrorism, the missiles, the rockets, the poisoning, the bombs, the explosions, et cetera, et cetera. I've listened to a retired colonel who used to advise the military on how to deal with these people. He said, it's just not a pretty scene. There is no good outcome to this. And I'm paraphrasing. Basically, listen to what he had to say. I'm like, geez, right? There's not a great way to win this. It is going to be a fucking mess. But like the terrorists, President Erdogan does not see what Hamas is doing to the Jews. He doesn't see that. He thinks that it's fair play, right? But he wants to point to the bad things that Israel does. What about all of the Armenian Christians that are being murdered, Mr. Erdogan? Really? Oh, yeah. He says Israel is committing war crimes. Well, what about all of the war crimes being committed by, well, all the other countries around the world? There's an awful lot of bad stuff going on, folks. And it just reminds me, again, of the splinter and the beam, right? How can you see the splinter in my eye with that beam, that plank, that log that's in yours? It's incredible, the hypocrisy out there. It is absolutely incredible. Now, in Gaza, they're being affected very negatively. And I wanted to tell you guys about this. In Gaza, the United Nations officials are saying that civil order is starting to break down. Why is that? Well, their power's off, their water's off, food supply is affected. Right? What are the things we need to live, folks? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, right? That's what you need to survive. They have plenty of self-defense, but food and water are starting to become scarce. Consequently, thousands of Gaza people, whether civilian or Hamas, they're now looting the United Nations warehouses. Now, not only is this a bad thing in Gaza, it's terrible to hear that this is happening, but I wanted to tell you about this, folks. To one, know that what Israel is doing is having an effect, and it's pissing off the people in Gaza and the terrorists. Everyone gets hurt in war, folks. But I wanted to let everyone know this is what is going to happen in America if the grid goes down here. In other words, I pointed to and talked about these terrorist cells that are here in America, whether they're Hezbollah or ISIS, or whether they're Hamas or Al-Qaeda, doesn't matter. Whether they're a bunch of no-name, radical, crazed factions who have, they're hot under the hood for Islamic martyrdom, they know that they can take our electric grid down quite easily, quite quickly by taking out our electricity substations. If the grid goes down in America to any significant degree in any geographic region, there's going to be a problem with food, water, fuel, electricity, etc. How long has it been since Israel, right, decided they were going to take down the electrical and start taking away means of support, the infrastructure in Gaza? It's been about a week. Been about a week for people who are already living. They're used to living through hardship. They're used to living through hardship. They've made it a whole week. America is not used to living through hardship. Man, I feel like a burger. I'm going to go get one right now. Man, I want a pizza. I'm going to go get one right now. That is how Americans live. We're not used to hardship. If the grid goes down in America, folks, expect civil order to break down very, very quickly. As far as Gaza goes and the conflict over there, it is a nightmare situation that is coming to life. It is. Meanwhile, the fat and sassy college professors in this country refuse to say that all of this terrorism is wrong. Right? There is a University of Massachusetts professor Her name is Rachel Weber. She's refusing to say that slaughtering civilians, innocent civilians, is an act of terror. They are still refusing, folks, in colleges. They're absolutely refusing in colleges. To condemn this. In fact, they're supporting it. It's that simple. If Israel is accused, right, of killing civilians, can they say this? This is what the ridiculous professor says. It's not a yes or no question. Actually, it is. It's a yes or no question. Were innocent people killed? Yes or no? What is terrorism? Is terrorism, right, the same as war? Yes or no? The answer is no. Right now, if terrorism is war, okay, then who are the terrorists? They can be anyone because they don't obey the rules of war, which is to wear uniforms so that the enemy can be identified when seen and attacked, so that civilians are not attacked. See, that's the whole point of the military uniform, is the uniform is to be seen and understood so they know you are an enemy combatant versus a civilian. Killing civilians is murder and a war crime. So, is it a war crime that Hamas has committed by killing 1,400 Israelis, or is it murder? If they're an army, it's a war crime. If they're not an army and they're a terrorist group, then it's plain old murder. Yeah, we got problems, folks. There's all kinds of issues between Israel, Gaza, Iran, Afghanistan, Jordan, Syria. It's a big fucking mess. In fact, get this. In the Czech Republic, the defense minister has let her opinion come out. Her name is Jana Černochová or Černochová. I am not a Czech, so I can't pronounce things very well. But the Jana Černochová has called on the Czechoslovakian Republic, not Slovakian, forgive me again, lifetime of having a Czechoslovakia. She is the defense minister for the Czech Republic, and she has called on the entire Czech Republic to leave the United Nations. That's right. The Czech Republic, she wants them out of the UN, out of the United Nations. Why? She says she's ashamed of the United Nations. Let's get out. That's a quote. I'm ashamed of the United Nations. Let's get out. Why would she say that? Because all of these anti-Israel, anti-Jew, murder everybody regimes are part of the United Nations, and they're cheering. They absolutely refused last week and over the weekend to condemn the murder of innocent people. You see, that's the problem, is they are innocent people being killed. More countries are starting to see Ukraine for what it is. More countries in Europe are starting to see the United Nations and these terrorists for what they are. They're extremists. They're anti-life. They are anti-Western civilization, and they are pro-death organizations. I mean, isn't that what I've been calling the Democrat Party? They're the party of death. They're the party of death. They want to kill babies. They want to kill Trump and Trump supporters. They want to go to war and kill everyone. They want to support terrorism. They're the party of death and destruction. That's awful. But it seems to be on the factual side of things. You can argue the niceties, but when it comes down to it, who wants death and who doesn't? Now, once again, when the Muslims are not busy being pissed off at the Israelis, who are they pissed off at? If they're not busy being pissed off at Americans or the American government, if they're not busy being pissed off at European governments, they're pissed off at other Muslims. They are barbaric. Period. And the fact that they call themselves the religion of peace is a work of sophistratic lunacy. It's very interesting. Now, we are 1 hour and 30 minutes into the show. If you've got something to say, now is your chance to say it. Now is your chance to say it. Let's do this. Jolene says someone has something to say. And we're still at 400 people live. Hit the thumbs up button. Some of you have hit the super chat button. But get that internet address, the URL, and share it with others now. Hit the thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and share that internet address so people can come wake up. Jolene, who is up next on the Prepared Mind channel? We have Luke Thompson with a $2 super chat donation. Thank you, Mr. Luke Thompson, for that. He's here every single week, and he shares, and I want to really thank everyone that shows up, supports the channel, spreads the word, folks. We couldn't do it without all you guys. Now, uh-oh, Jolene says there's more. All right, Jolene, what do we got? We got Boomer 21 out of Canada, with a $10 super chat Canadian donation. Thank you, sir. He says Lewiston, Maine. That's where the Maine massacre, the Maine Master massacre, did his dirty work. Lewiston, Maine got shut down due to one gunman. And their shelves of ammunition is what Boomer 21 is referring to. Their shelves went bare after 3 days. Now, are we talking, when we say shelves, we're just talking ammunition, Boomer? Or are we talking food? Anyways, Boomer says, now, what will happen after terrorist cells activate after one coordinated attack? Oh, you can bet your ass the shelves will be bare in less than a day across the whole country. Every caliber, every gauge, handgun, rifle, etc. The moment they decide to do a coordinated violent attack in any city in America where Hamas or Hezbollah or ISIS or Al-Qaeda takes credit, you can bet your ass it will be gone in one day. Now, once again, I am not calling for violence, but I fear that everybody will be on edge and that there will be nothing but trouble, especially in the city where the action takes place, especially in other cities where these radical wacko ding-dongs want to shoot their lips off, right? Because they've got nothing else. They've got nothing to live for, folks, except jihad. These jihadis have nothing else to live for. Crazy stuff. Now, President Trump had a couple of smart things to say. I want to share it with you. Part one, President Trump. He says this: if you hate America, if you sympathize with jihadis, then we don't want you in our country. Does that make sense? Yes or no? There you go. Now, I think that's an appropriate statement. I really do. If you hate America and if you sympathize with the jihadis, then we don't want you in our country. Now, that applies, of course, to foreigners. But I'm going to ask President Trump this: what about people who are American citizens, either born or naturalized? Right? I was born in America. I do not sympathize with the jihadis, and I do not hate America. But what if I did? He says, we don't want you in our country. He doesn't say he's going to take any action, or does he? Well, in part 2 of what President Trump said, he kind of dropped the hammer. And he says, resident aliens who join the pro-jihadi protests this month, we will find you and we will deport you. What is President Trump talking about? Well, he's talking about the far future. One possible far future. That possible far future would be January 22nd of 2024. No, 2025. January 22nd of 2025 is when it would start. Well, it is October the 29th of 2023. So we're talking 1 year, and let's see, November, December, January. 1 year and 1 quarter away. So everyone who is sticking their head up. Now, a resident alien, folks, is someone who has the authority, or rather, they have been authorized and have permission to live in our country and work in our country. They are aliens, meaning they are not Americans, not the other kind of aliens from outer space. They don't have little antennas. Resident aliens, they have permission to live here. But he said if they join the pro-jihadi protests, he didn't say become a jihadi. He didn't say become a terrorist. He said join in their protests. We will find you and we will deport you. So how can you and I help? You and I can help by getting video footage, surveillance footage. And I do not recommend that you go out to a pro-jihadi, pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel protest and start filming. I do not recommend doing that. I do not. Because you could be assaulted and attacked. You could get hurt. These people are wacko, crazy, stupid. But I recommend saving on your computers and on your phones, saving files of these people so that if Trump is elected and if that's the policy, you can turn that material in to the nearest police station or FBI office. Now, the good thing about 2025 is you have files, you can electronically send them, but you don't lose your file. 50 years ago, if you had a picture of a bad guy, you hand the picture to the police and your picture's gone. You got nothing. Now you have copies you can distribute everywhere. You can send it to the local police, the local sheriff, the state police, the federal police, whatever law enforcement organization is, and you can send out all kinds of copies. Now, here's what the terrorists are going to do to counter that move. They're going to start wearing masks, just like they did back in good old Gaza and all over the Middle East and all over the world when they can get away with it. Once again, if you want to protest, you are not allowed to wear a mask. You have to be seen and identified, because if crime is committed, and it often does in left-wing radical and anti-Israel protests, they become violent. The police and others need to see who you are so you can be identified. If they want to wear masks, they should be arrested right away. If it turns out that they're supporting a jihadi group, if they are violent protesters or supporting a violent cause, and you're wearing a mask and you're a resident alien, you're out of here. Your ass will be bounced right onto a plane and out of the fucking country, back to wherever you came from. That's a good way to get rid of it, don't you think? I think that we should send them all back to the shitholes from whence they came. Period. This is a mess we're in, folks. What are the answers? What are the solutions? How do you protect yourself? How do you protect your family? How do you protect your community? How do you protect your country? It is the same from every level. It is going to be eliminating the enemy. You can't kill cancer by killing one cell. You can't stop cancer from killing you by getting rid of a little bit of it. It has to be just 100% removed. It truly does. Okay, Jolene, we got some super chats. Who wants to step on up first? And it is Mr. Skylight. And I want to thank you again, Mr. Skylight, for always supporting this channel. $19.99 super chat donation. And here he is with his quote. See if you can place this one. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. In case you don't know, that is the Second Amendment. And it makes sense. It makes very good sense. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights, or the first 10 amendments as they were known, were written in plain English so that anyone could understand it. It wasn't codified so that only lawyers could understand and judges could interpret. Simple language. A well-regulated militia. Now, a regulator at that time was someone who was practiced, right? A well-regulated militia was a well-trained and well-practiced militia. A well-regulated militia, necessary, being necessary to the security of a free state, meaning a free state, whether a small state like, I don't know, Georgia or Mississippi or Alabama, one of those types of states, or the country itself. It's necessary for every state, every country. And again, folks, a free state. Back then and to this day, the term state is synonymous with country. The United States of America, though we've kind of confused that with what a state is being less than the federal government. Anyways, let us move on. They would say that states here in America are inferior to the federal government. They are not. Let us continue, though, with Mr. Skylight's quote of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated, a well-practiced, right, an efficient militia, an effective militia, a powerful militia is necessary to protect a free state, a country. That's a fact. You cannot have an unpracticed, out of practice, uncoordinated, untrained military and expect to have a free state. You'll be overrun very quickly. So they go on to say the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. People, folks. You cannot have something collectively that you do not have individually. The right of the people, that would be me and you as individuals, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The people collectively have a right, and the people independently have a right to protect themselves and to secure our states. Who wants to destroy that? It's more than just Beto. It's more than just Joe Biden. It's more than just Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. It's all of the Democrats. At the same time, they're letting in people who want to destroy this country. After what happened in, Lewiston, Maine, after what happened in Israel, after the threats we've received from Hillary Clinton, she wants to lock us up in re-education camps. Are you going to give up your Second Amendment right? Now, again, the Bill of Rights, folks, wasn't a creation of the government. It was a recognition and a command that the government leave us the fuck alone. We had, prior to the Second Amendment, a right to keep and bear arms. We had a right to not have that infringed by the government, but it was enshrined within the Second Amendment so that government would be strictly prohibited in a legal document. It became the law of the land. And when the government, an entity that is very powerful, seeks to take your right, our right to self-preservation, and starts infringing upon that right, which they were strictly forbidden to infringe upon, then you have to understand that that is a tyrannical government that wants to take that action. And it doesn't matter how many children are killed. They don't give a shit. Why aren't they demanding? Why aren't the Democrats? Why isn't Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton? Why isn't Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke or whatever the fuck his name is? Why aren't they demanding that Hamas surrender their firearms? Will Beto go over to Gaza and speak like this?
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15. Hell yes, your AK-47. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Is Beto O'Rourke going to go talk to Hamas and Hezbollah, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda like that? Not a fucking chance. They want your rights, America. They want your rights. Unbelievable. Now, in the United States, the government has decided that for the next 90 days, after citing the need for our national security, they're going to freeze the export of not military, but civilian firearms and civilian ammunition. No one's allowed to export, except maybe Joe Biden and Hunter, because the law doesn't seem to apply to them. But I found this an interesting development, that they're going to freeze the export of civilian firearms and ammo. Now, that doesn't bother me that we're not going to export ammunition, because very few countries can buy ammunition, because very few countries actually have firearms. What bothers me about something like this is, what if the federal government decides they're going to, for 90 days, ban the sale, the distribution, the manufacturing of civilian firearms and ammunition for us? I never, ever trust the government. Not when they've demonstrated to themselves or demonstrated to us exactly who they are. Now, I wanted everyone to know that the fruitcakes are still out there. The fruit salad, the salad tossers are still around. I don't want everyone to forget about them. At the college known as Notre Dame, something good has happened. The students there are protesting a drag show that is planned for being on the college campus. There needs to be a wall built around our institutions to keep the freaks out. I hope Notre Dame is the place where this is started. Notre Dame means our mother, by the way. Our mother. Now, also in line with the fruitcakes and fruit salads and salad tossers out there, a female martial artist, right? One of these MMA types is refusing to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament in Brazil because she's being forced to fight men who claim to be women. Unbelievable. They have a violent tendency. I understand fighting, folks. I understand aggression. I understand testosterone and wanting to fight and enjoying fighting and all that. But to say you're a fighter and then to say, well, never mind this old penis thing, I'm going to fight as a girl. Unbelievable. These people know no limits. And I'm glad that this woman, a female martial artist, is smart enough to say, you know what? I'm not going to fight against men. Right? It is absolutely incredible, folks, that these lunatics are out there. They're out there. Now, we're down to the last 10 minutes. Down to the last 10 minutes. Jolene, who's up next? I've got a lot of stuff to say, and I don't want to cut anyone out. Hey, Crazy Uncle's checked in with a $5 super chat donation. That super chat button right up there, you hit it, and he says, hey, prepper tip. That's right, folks. The Crazy Uncle prepper tips are back. He says, make sure you swap your car summer bag to the winter bag. Don't forget boots and extra socks. Also check your gear like batteries. They have an expiration date. Additionally, I recommend in cold areas that you keep a blanket or 2 blankets behind the seat, in the trunk, etc. Very important stuff. Very important stuff. Yeah, winter, folks, it's a killer. Thank you, Crazy Uncle. Great tip and great support for the Prepared Mind Network. Thank you, sir. Jolene, what else? Who else? Who is up next? And it is David G with a $10 super chat donation. He says, thanks for all your hard work, waiting for the day when I wake up and find out civilization is over. Boy, I don't want that day to happen, Dave. I really don't. That's a day that I fear. I do not want civilization to end, but it can certainly be put on hold. Ouch. It can be put on hold for a week or a month. Hell, it could be put on hold for a year or 2. If you look at the end of the Roman Empire, it took the Roman Empire, well, some say decades and some say a couple of centuries to completely decline. You could say that World War I started the decline of Western civilization, the world as we know it. And here we are 100 years later, still going downhill. That's why I say you need at least several months of food and the ability to take care of your water needs and to protect yourself. Now, there it is. Thank you, David G. You are welcome on the hard work side. And who do we have next? Jolene. We've got Boomer. He's back with another Canadian $10 super chat donation. He says, after World War II here in Canada, you would be automatically arrested for carrying a Nazi flag. However, now in the big cities, Hamas supporters are given police escorts. Isn't that interesting? Yep. You would be arrested for carrying a symbol of hatred, violence, and racial murder, the Nazi flag. It was a symbol for fighting. It was a symbol for killing Jews. It was a symbol of intolerance. It was all those symbols, right? The flag was a bad thing because it also represented the military killing machine. Right now, Hamas supporters, Hamas and Hezbollah and Gaza and all these Palestinians, all of their flags mean something. But they're given police escorts, they're given police protection. They call it freedom of speech and the right to protest. But every time there's a pro-Israeli protest, right, or a support for Israel gathering, the jihadis, the pro-Palestinians, the anti-Israelis, the anti-Americans show up and try causing conflict, causing anger, hatred, fear, terror, intimidation, threats. That's what these people are all about. That is what they're all about. All right. Very good, Mr. Boomer. I appreciate that. We've got our hands full, folks. That's what I have to say. We've got our hands full. Okay. Then I wanted to cover this, folks. What is going on in Ukraine? Right now, there is a huge fight over Avdiivka in Ukraine. It is near to Donetsk. And Donetsk was one of those places that we heard an awful lot about at the beginning of the Ukraine-Russia war. Now, the claim is by the Ukraine military and the Ukraine propaganda that Russia is losing 1,000 men every day. So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of soldiers. Now, of course, Russia considers that to be propaganda and military lies, and Russia has its own propaganda and information they want out there. Russia says they're about to encircle and close and surround Avdiivka, and it's supposed to be about 95% gone, civilian population gone, right? So if they've got it completely encircled, then it is going to be a shooting gallery to kill the Ukrainians that are left. There's supposed to be 20,000 Ukrainian military in there. Now, are we supposed to believe the Russian propaganda that they got it encircled just about? Whose propaganda do we believe? Are we to believe that Russia is losing men, but they're going to win eventually as they close the loop and start killing them off? Or are we supposed to believe that Russia is not losing as many men as 1,000 a day, but they will still take the city because they are closing the loop on it, and they're going to surround it, and they're going to slaughter everyone who doesn't surrender? Either way, Ukraine is getting its ass kicked, folks. And some people are saying, oh, Russia, they cannot stand to lose 1,000 men a day. Folks, Russia has always fought war, not with their soldiers being completely expendable, but understand that they will lose a lot of soldiers to complete the mission. They know that they need to win at all costs. And so at all costs means, right, at all costs, whether it costs ammunition, whether it costs artillery, whether it costs tanks, planes, or soldiers. That is how they fight over in Russia. That's how they've always fought over in Russia. It is going to continue to be a very, very nasty fight. And I wanted to share this with you. There's a very interesting story here, and I need to share it with you, and it has disappeared. And I don't want it to disappear, so I will find it again very quickly as we round out the show. Oh, that's why I never sent it. It was sitting there waiting, ready to be sent. Okay. Yep. There is a Texan in Donetsk. His name is Russell Bentley. And according to the Gateway Pundit, he says there is a huge relevance to the Russian siege of Avdiivka. And this is his quote. This is an American, or was an American, a Texan. I don't know if he is expatriated, but I suspect he has. He says that, quote, once it falls, meaning Avdiivka, once it falls, the Donbass front will shatter like glass. Now, who is Russell? Russell Texas Bentley. Who is Russell? Is he an idiot? He's not a member of the media. I've never heard of the guy. But apparently he knows about the struggle of fighting Nazis in Ukraine. He says he has been there from the start, and he served in the Vostok Battalion and the XAH Spetsnaz Battalion in the years 2014, 2015, and 2017. And he fought on the side of the Donetsk People's Republic. He's not a Russian. He was a Ukrainian. But he was fighting against the Nazi Azov Battalion as a member of the Spetsnaz Battalion and the Vostok Battalion. In other words, the fighting between the Russians and the Ukrainians that it was occurring way back in 2014, 15, and 17 is when he was there fighting. And by the way, he was also baptized into the Russian Orthodox Church. Now, he was in downtown Donetsk, and he had some big news. He had an opinion he wanted to share. This is his quote. The biggest thing everybody's talking about recently is the advances of our guys in the Avdiivka front. He says our guys. Okay. He is a Russian, at least in the military sense. He says they've taken the Terrakon, which is the slag heap. It's a big hill, which is literally strategic position from there. They can observe for miles around. They've taken the slag heap. That's a great name for a big hill. Good golly. You can listen to a movie of this guy talking if you want. So he says, not unlike, the article says, not unlike Mariupol. If you remember that was a huge steel factory that had tunnels underneath it that the Ukrainian military was hiding in and was just getting creamed by the Russians there. Not unlike Mariupol and with the Azovstal industrial area, Avdiivka, it's a coke plant. So yeah, there's your slag. The coke plant is an area where Ukrainian soldiers have deeply fortified and are holed up. Once again, they're in a hole. They're fighting from holes. Mr. Bentley, the Texan, says the pinchers are closing. And the Russians are going to bring in drones, artillery, rocket fire, and they're going to block off reinforcements and the reprovisioning of the Ukrainian military, the 20,000 in there. It's a pincher movement, folks. They're going to close it. Russians win by attrition. They win by fighting to the death, folks. Anyways, Ukraine is going to fail. European support for Ukraine is done. Monetary support for Ukraine is done. The Russians are going to win that. I am not a defeatist. I think it was a bad mistake to fight this war in the first place or to cause it. Now, Joe Biden has a problem. Joe Biden has a big problem. He needs cover. He needs support. He needs to hide. And I think they're going to start the war between Israel and the entire Muslim world. And they're going to bring it home to our countries in Europe, in Russia, in America, in Canada, all over the planet. And it's going to keep us busy and keep us distracted so that they can keep their power. Chance favors the prepared mind. I really hope you are prepared, folks. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. And I want to thank you for supporting the channel. Everyone who has donated money, it is very much appreciated and goes to a good cause. I think Jolene was saying that we have a $600 bill this month to pay. It costs a lot of money to do what we do, folks. All of these channels out here that I told you about at the beginning of the show, it costs money. And they're hurt because YouTube and other social media are blocking us, silencing us, defunding us. They're taking money that should go to the channels through advertisements. They're turning off the advertising. They're taking the money. They're not paying out, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they're doing. We have a war of our own, and it's an information war. Hopefully, folks, hopefully we can win that information war, keep our free speech, and keep supporting getting the message out. And that includes sharing that internet address. I need you to share it. Hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't already, make sure it's been it. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscription button. Everything you do helps fight YouTube's algorithms. They are shadow banning the shit out of this. Folks, we used to get thousands of people within the first couple of hours of this show. Now it takes a couple of days to get that. They slow the message down. They hide the messages. Thank you for all you do. Chance favors the prepared mind. Be patriotic and share the word, folks. The word, Constitution. Semper Fi. Godspeed.